Alright, it's time for my end of KVK review, or like look into how I did this KVK. So I'll try to keep it fairly short. And we can see here my before and after. So this is before, I think I took this like right before Pass 5 opened. This is basically after KVK ended. So you can see it's mostly T5, as you might expect. 147 million T5 kills and close to 6 million T4 kills. And that adds up to around 153 million kills. I can also show you through hero scrolls. Hero scrolls is another way a lot of kingdoms recently have been using to track KVK contribution. You can sort of see all the nice breakdowns: power, KP, how much power I lost, how many deads I took, KP gain, which is exactly 3 bill. I think it was a little over 3 bill. T5 kills basically matches exactly what I just showed you. T4 kills around 6 mil. Then there's like T1, T2, T3, which I'm not going to count, of course. There's a lot of other miscellaneous statistics and stuff here, which I'm obviously not going to go over, but you can gloss over it if you want. Chests, it even tracks chests, which is impressive. Chests you buy. So obviously free-to-play doesn't buy chests. Forts, I think it only tracks home kingdom forts. DKP, just ignore the DKP you see here. 960 has their own like formula, which they use, which is not accurate to this. But yeah, this is just pretty nice way to see my contribution to this KVK. If you don't want to like manually calculate it like I do myself. A lot of kingdoms have been using hero scrolls as of recently. Coming down here. Oh, so this is something someone is asking me. Where did I get the resources I use this KVK? I'll be honest, I did not farm all these myself. 70 bill is too much for me to farm in like one break between one KVK. So you can see I spent a sizable amount of resources. And actually, Mad Achilles did help me out. I think this was his last KVK, maybe officially in all his kingdoms. I think he has a few accounts, and he has one account in 2377, one in 1960. I think he's done with both. But yeah, he did say that he was donating his resources to help people that might not have enough, and I did not have enough. So he sent me, I think he sent me around 8 bill each, approximately. So yeah, I'm not going to send the whole conversation, but you know, snippets of the conversation will show up there. Obviously, having a lot of farms does help as well. Obviously, if I didn't have 11 farms, I wouldn't be able to get this far. But you know, even with 11 farms, it's not enough this KVK. So still having some farms does help alleviate some of the pain running full T5. So yeah, if you're wondering where I got the resources, some of it I farmed myself, some of it I got from Mad Achilles. I think leadership also did give me a little bit, but not that much compared to Mad Achilles. Speed ups, ooh, it's rough. Speed ups I used in this KVK were definitely the most I've ever used. So you can sort of say I started, this is before the first pass open. I think I took that 5,000 days, just universals, and then after this, I think this is right after Kingsland ended, or like 2377 started pulling out, 3,000 days. So I'd say I used, I think 2,000 days. 2,000 days is a pretty good estimate, just because I used, like, I'd say I think 300 days training. So factoring in like all the chests I got, I'd say 2,000 days is a pretty good estimate. Of course, not probably, you know, exact, but 2,000 days is pretty reasonable estimate. That's how much I use this KVK, which is obviously very expensive. But if you mix T5 and T4, it turns out you use a lot of speeds. So if I was running full T5, I would use a lot more resources, but save speeds. So mixing T5, T4 will cost you a lot of speeds, as you can see. Let's go to the commander breakdown. Like, so kills by each commander. I like to do this just so I can see how my marches perform, which ones are doing the best, maybe which ones I need to like change some commanders out, or maybe focus more on the gear armaments. So you can see Luce. I've not been using Luce that long compared to some of my other commanders. We can sort of see the kills went to 34.5 mil approximately this KVK. Once again, how you get this number: subtract these two and multiply by 2. Subtract these two and multiply by 2. Here are the auxiliary skills. So auxiliary skills are an Orleans specific feature. So the first like zone, past 4, you only get 1 auxiliary skill. So I had Pyrrhus in this zone, Pyrrhus, then you go into Pyrrhus and Tamar. Tamar is its normal attack damage. Then you get Pyrrhus, Tamar, and Joan. I'll show these in game in a second. Here it is for Luce. You can sort of see the skills here. For Pyrrhus, who's health and march speed. Tamar is basically just normal attack damage, or normal damage, sorry. And same with Joan, just more normal damage. So a lot of normal damage buffs and some march speed on Pyrrhus. Coming down to the next commander, Nevsky Joan. Eventually I'm going to bench this march. I think it's performing a lot worse for me now. I think Nevsky has definitely fallen out of the meta at this point of the game. For this March, at least. Maybe there's other March configurations which Nevsky does perform better for, but Nevsky Joan has been, I'm using him for a very, very long time. You can see by the kills, 29 million kills, but it definitely didn't feel that good this KVK, that's all. You can sort of see the support skills or lean skills. I'm going to show them in game as well. So we're using Khan, reduce the rage by 100, William, 30% attack, and some extra damage factor as well. And then Belly, which is extra damage if their troop count is below 50%. So, you know, bunch of Cav commander skills, which is pretty good in general. But obviously, maybe you might not have William, maybe might not have Khan. So there's, you have to use other options if you don't have those commanders. Coming down to Huo Arthur. So Huo Arthur has definitely performed very well for me this KVK. You can sort of see the kills, 34 mil. Pretty solid March. It did a lot of nuke damage. I feel like this March was performing very well. Let me show the skills in game. So you can sort of see I have Mehmed, Chandra, and YSG. So Chandra gives health. Mehmed is just attack and skill damage. And YSG is just very, very, a lot of skill damage. 50% skill damage. It's just flat skill damage. Chandra, I don't have his skill max, unfortunately, but, you know, take what you can get. So you can sort of see when I equip the skills as well, based on when the zone's open. Herman, so I'm using Herman Zug, or Zug Herman this KVK. I normally use Herman primary, but for this KVK I used Zug primary just because you have so much march speed. So 29.5 million kills. Coming down to the auxiliary skills, you can sort of see I did something different with auxiliaries here. So in the first zone you have Thutmose, then you can swap Thutmose to Edward. So it's interesting what you can do because Edward is Edward is probably the best auxiliary skill in the game, let's show. For Zug. So Edward gives 30% health and 30% march speed. Probably the best, hands down best auxiliary skill in the game, especially for archers. Archers are very slow. Elcid also gives archer speed and defense. So this March is already very, very fast. That's why I don't use Herman primary. And then I use this is the free-to-play option if you don't have anything better. Caesar for troop capacity. I think there were no other options for me just because my account isn't that old. So yeah, a lot of march speed. That's why I opted for Zug primary, but normally I do Herman primary. Coming down to Scipio Rag. This is actually my worst March in terms of kills, but it is what it is. 25.58, 25.6 million kills approximately. You can sort of see the skills I used. Martel, then Martel's Sun. Then I used Martel, Guan, and Sun. So the order I did was a little weird, but I'm limited on options, so that's what I sort of did. Martel is defense, health, and march speed. Very good support skill, or at least auxiliary skill. Guan is attack and march speed, and Sun Tzu is just flat skill damage. But Sun Tzu is obviously not as good as YSG, but it's still pretty good. So yeah, pretty solid options. Those were support the Orleans skills. I keep saying support auxiliary skills I used. Now look at the breakdown by March. Blue Alex was my best performing, which didn't surprise me a lot. The reason I think this is my best performing March is I lost a lot of skill cycles. So I think I was very reliant on insta-proc damage over skill cycles. So this March did very well. Then Huo Arthur is obviously second. Very solid March. Herman Zug. This should be Zug Herman, sorry. Zug Herman. Because I was using mostly Zug Herman, Zug primary for this KVK. Pretty solid as well. Nev Joan has been falling off very slowly for me. And then Scipio Rag was last. I do think Rag primary is better, but I didn't feel safe using Rag primary. The reason I use Scipio primary is for the march speed. I think I needed every bit of march speed I could this KVK. So yeah, that's my sort of like breakdown by March. You can see the kill percentage by March, like which Marches got the most out of my 5 Marches right here. So obviously Lou Alex 22.62, Arthur second, Zuckerman third, Nev Joan fourth, Skip Rag at the bottom. So I do think in general I prefer to use Scipio primary. Maybe just in lower seed it's better to use Ragnarok primary. Same with Zuckerman. I think if march speed's an issue, just swap to a commander with the support tree primary. Support tree obviously gives you a lot more march speed and flexibility. When I say march speed and flexibility, I mean a considerable amount more than if you do the normal option. So for example, looking here, you get, I think it's right here, 6% march speed here. You also get access to the hasty departure, which also gives march speed. And versatility is something you can also do, but this is for skill damage commanders as well. But I do like what support tree offers me. So, you know, this also makes you a little more tanky. Support tree in general feels very good to use. So if you don't feel like your march is performing well, I generally suggest swapping to a support tree commander if you have the option, like Scipio or Herman Primary. Coming down to gear and armaments, something I get asked a lot. How do my gear and armaments look? What am I focusing on? Priorities. Basically the same as what I had in the first zone. I do show this pretty often just to show like my progress, what I'm working towards, you know, how it's looking over time. 2 T5, 2 iconic 5 boots. Most of my weapons are iconic 2 at this point, and I focus on like tier awakening 2. Most of my other pieces you can sort of see, where is it? Right here, I awaken 2 some pants. Just whatever I have the blueprints for, I try to awaken 2. My helmet here, so, you know, just awaken 2 is my next priority after getting these boots to 5. Then I'm probably going to come back and probably just awaken 2 everything. Probably I'll focus more on my Cav sets because Cav is performing better for me overall. But yeah, that's how the gear looks. Armaments, pretty standard. 4 hunters, 1 destructive. Stats are decent overall. Generally what I look for in armaments are to make all my sets sort of as close as possible to around 35 to 40% stats, including inscriptions. So that's generally what I aim for. And obviously it's a work in progress. Some sets look a lot better than others. It's just how it is. Like for example, on my archer set, I have 3 of a stat on every single armament you can see here. This one is march speed, but march speed is pretty good on archers as well. So it's just a process. It takes some time, transmuting, gambling basically. But yeah, that's how it looks on armaments and gear. Always a work in progress, right? Let me also address a moment which happened in this KVK. Let me just first say this was not my mistake. As you can see, I took a lot of deads in this one report. I'll show the context for this, but this meme was pretty funny. I liked it also. Anyways, someone swarmed Mr. Hope City, and my march was very coincidentally near the Myrtle Ball. So you can sort of see it on. I actually was doing stream while this happened, so it's pretty sad. You can sort of see someone hitting Mr. Hope City right here. Actually, I think someone sent all their marches into Mr. Hope City, like one player. So I sort of noticed, and I was trying to move my marches back. I thought it was out of the AoE range, but I guess this is not far enough out. And it sort of clipped me right here. You can see my loot tray took the AoE. And yeah, that's the context, okay? That's the context of what happened. Yeah, pretty disappointing to lose troops in that way. And actually the full report from that, losing all those troops was pretty... I think we lost like 4 million troops in that one person who swarmed Mr. Hope City. But yeah, just addressing this because I saw a lot of people post memes about this, what happened here. Some people wanted to know. I'll also link the stream if you want to see it, but it was just unfortunate what happened there. I think I'm almost done talking about everything I wanted to. Just one more thing, if you're curious about where I ranked in terms of GT, so I'm just filtering by all the GT players. I think I'm around, where am I? 121. So not the best, but of course, if you're comparing me to max tech players, I'd say this is okay. Honestly, I could have done better, I think. There were more opportunities for me to get kill points, but this KVK was very tiring for me. So a lot of time went into this KVK. I think I'm pretty satisfied with how I did. So yeah, if you're wondering where I rank in terms of GT players, I'm in the, I could say top 120, bottom 120, whatever you want to say. Not the bottom, top 120 players, 121 players. I think I covered everything that I wanted to talk about. If I left anything out, please feel free to ask me in the comments or leave a question. This KVK in general, I don't think I can manage another Hell KVK like this. I know a lot of people say, you know, this is the Hell KVK you wanted. You should be looking forward to this. 2 weeks of like playing nonstop and having my R4s ping me to come online every few hours is not very healthy, to say the least. So not sure if I can manage another KVK like this. It just felt very draining time-wise, mentally. It was hard to balance with my like life-work balance. So I'll have to see going forward what I plan to do, because I don't think I can manage another KVK like this, unfortunately. So yeah, that's it. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comments. Thank you.